Okay, our first location in town, let's talk about the Church of St. Nicholas. So what is going on with the St. Nicholas Church is a strange dancing light has frequently been seen in the windows. It's often accompanied by the sound of knocking coming from the daring vaults.
No.
In the early 1970s, in the hope of recording supernatural phenomenon, a group of psychic researchers persuaded the then rector, Reverend John Pittock, to allow them to spend a night locked inside the church. Armed with their cameras, tape recorders, thermometers, other apparatus, they settled down to watch and wait. When the vicar came to let them out the next morning, they complained of having spent an uneventful night, the boredom alleviated only by the vicar's dog, who had come to visit them from time to time through the night.
Oh, I see where this is going.
And the
Yeah.
vicar stopped and he looked at them and he said, "I don't have a dog."
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a good
I like that
appellation.
little
That's
twist.
solid.
Oh, that's
also
creepy.
in this St. Nicholas Church, this is where the red lady and the lady in
white
white
lady.
also
Yes.
come into the story.
Technicolored lady.
The red lady and the white lady. Yes.
So the red lady, it is basically what they're claiming is Lady Daring.
Oh, okay.
She was buried in the graveyard. She wanders the graveyard, wailing while she searches for the grave of her stillborn baby, which I have no history on
Right, whether
on
or
that
not
topic.
that's actually
But,
true. Yeah.
and
But it
the
makes a good
white
story.
lady, yeah. Like, keep in mind, a lot of these are just ghost stories,
Right.
combined with some paranormal investigation before the
Before
village
you couldn't
decided
do it
to
anymore.
ban everyone from doing it.
Right.
Okay, so the white lady,
Yeah.
again, deals with the St. Nicholas Church, and this lady is said to stalk both the church and the library of her own home,
Oh.
which was also part of the Daring family, this home.
Oh, okay.
The
So this is
the
family
grand
home?
house was destroyed in a fire in 1952, but her spirit is reportedly seen by staff from the U.S. Embassy, who used the property as a base from time to
I remember
time.
that from Midsummer Murders.
Yeah. Yes.
I do.
And
That's
it says
funny.
here, one employee held an all-night vigil on Christmas Eve, and when the lady in white appeared in front of him, he shot her ghost with his rifle.
Oh,
Oh,
because you would always shoot a woman.
Yeah, so
yes, you do.
obviously shooting ghosts with a rifle isn't going to accomplish anything.
Not
But,
much of anything. Maybe it made him feel better.
yeah, what can I
Exactly.
say?
That's funny.
That's kind of funny though, because there was a Midsummer Night's episode that went back to when the U.S. were using it as the embassy, and there was some kind of ghost story because a tour guide was taking people through the site talking about the ghosts. So that was right on the TV show.
That's
If you
cool.
haven't seen it.
Wild. Isn't that awesome? That's so clever.
I know. So they kind of tied in the story of the town itself with the episode of the show, which was kind of cool.
Clever.
Mhm.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Okay, the next place in the village we're going to talk about is called Greystone. And Greystone is haunted by a monk who
Oh, okay.
drifts among the surrounding trees. He is said to have lived in Tudor times and is reputed to have fallen in love with the daughter of a neighboring property.
Isn't that always the way?
She died under tragic circumstances, and he just sank into a state of bitterness. His only solace was to walk the green fields and the leafy lanes where they had enjoyed so many romantic interludes together. As time passed, he sank deeper into depression, pining for his dead lover, and finally died of a broken heart. His ghost continues to wander the neighborhood and was last seen in 1989 by an American journalist who glimpsed the unmistakable brown-robed figure drifting behind the house.
Now, how did they know it wasn't Friar Tuck? No.
Could have been.
Yeah, exactly.
So wait, so how did his supposed girl die tragically? Do we not have any details on this? You gotta know. You know,
Mystery.
it's a mystery.
Nope, that I do not have that information.
Darn, that's one we'll have to look up, Rachel. We'll have to get to the bottom of that.
Oh
twist.
yes, go down the rabbit hole.
The monk and the dead lover.
That would be interesting. For sure.
Just,
I mean, you kind of got to look at this, right? Because some of
oh
this
yeah,
I think been very crafted. You know, it's sort of like that's a kind of story that Penny Dreadfuls were made of in the Victorian era, right? You know, it's the monk who's pining for, you know, the girl, the daughter of the farmer or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You know, it's this illicit.
You know, well, as I say, you know, so many of these reports are ghost stories, and you just got to take it as it is.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, we laugh about it, but, you know, sometimes when you get the opportunity to get there and to do some research, there ends up being some validity to these things. So I've had that happen in the past where, you know, people have, and it sounds ridiculous and far-fetched, and then you get there and it's like, oh, weird, okay. So I've just been put in my place.
Okay, so now after gravestones, we have a house called Rose Court. And the house is at least 250 years old. And again, it is said to have been built by a member of the Daring family.
Okay.
There's no exact date, but again, the period is described as having been in Tudor times.
Right, yeah, and that seems to be, even when I was looking, that seems to be about the time the village really started to take shape, was in the late, like sort of the mid to late 1500s. So, yeah, so very cool.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Did you find
okay,
something?
this comes back to the monk at Greystones. Okay,
So
I think I've got your
monastery.
answer. I think I've got your answer
Oh,
as to
okay.
how
Okay.
as to how the woman died.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go.
As I say, I've got 12 pages of notes, and you know, so there's
Rachel and
going to
I
be
are
some
here.
overlapping.
We'll
And
have to look for details.
Yes,
okay,
for
so
sure.
whatever the case, the story goes that, you know, she fell in love with the monk who lived at Greystones.
Oh,
And apparently there was also a love triangle in this story.
Gets juicy.
And this woman was so distressed.
That she took her life.
Yeah, as she did. She drank a fatal cocktail distilled from the juices of ivy and other poisonous berries. When her body was discovered, it was apparent that in her final moments, she had been spent looking across the field to where Greystones was. But the fact that Greystones wasn't built until 1863, that shouldn't stand in the way of a perfectly good ghost story. There could have been another house on the site at that time.
But
Who
maybe
knows?
there was an old monastery too. I mean, sometimes we find that, you know, those things don't exist anymore, but it may be in the Tudor times there was a small outcropping, perhaps just even a parish from a monastery that was there. That, you know, when you start a village, you tend to start it around something. So if there was a pre-existing monastery there, that would make sense. Generally, you do that, or it's a good place to put a mill or some such thing, because otherwise you don't just drop a village in the middle of a thick forest and go, hey.
Exactly.
There is a mill in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's usually the case.
So Rose Court, it says here, strange things do indeed happen within the house.
Okay, so the house
Articles
is there.
are moved around during the night. Strange groans and sighs disturb the early hours, and it is said that a peculiar eerie atmosphere is said to hang over the garden.
See, we need to do some road trips. In this case,
Yeah,
it'd
we
be
do.
airline trips and then road trips, but yeah, I mean,
Do it for the show.
just, yeah, it sounds like it would be a fun place to visit.
Oh, I think so. Then we'd have
Yeah,
a blast.
I'd love to go there. Just
Yeah. I mean, and that's
That's
the thing,
right there
I
in
mean,
Kent.
I'm willing to go to these sites, and I don't necessarily have to go in the buildings. And I think the way around that is that you get friendly with the locals, and
Mhm.
then you talk, right? You don't call them up and go, "Hey, I'm coming to do a show." You just kind
Yeah.
of
and they say, "Oh no, you're not."
Exactly.
You just
Yeah.
come, you do the touristy thing, and then you be your own regular charming self, and then you kind of end up getting in places like I do most often.
That would be awesome. I would love to. I would love to see it in person. I think we should do a show there.
I'm
But
waiting for Ian to get to my favorite story, though. My favorite. I've got one that's my favorite here in Pluckley.
Oh,
No,
well,
just keep going. You'll hit it.
okay. I may stumble across it. I may not.
So you might. If you don't, I'll be bringing it up.
Okay,
oh,
fair enough.
dying to hear it.
Okay, our next story: an old gypsy lady earned a meager living gathering watercress and selling it to the villagers. She was well known. They considered her a little eccentric, but she was very well loved.
Yeah.
Each night as the sun went down, she would sit on the walls of the bridge that went over the creek, smoke her pipe, and drink gin from an old flask.
Oh my goodness.
One
So I'm
evening,
gonna guess this is Victorian era then, at this point, or at least the late sort of Georgian period, by the sounds of it.
yeah. So she did that. One evening, she fell asleep, and the pipe that she was smoking dropped onto her clothing and ignited her dress
Oh,
into flames.
that's sad.
She was found the next day, a charred pile of ashes. Well, I don't know about that, but
Right. She would have maybe died though of her burns.
yeah. But her ghost has been reported to have been seen many times. In the years that followed her death, it's claimed that she manifests as a screaming, howling figure surrounded by flames.
Yeah, I would.
Oh, that
Um,
must be terrifying.
Yeah.
Now, see, I find that story interesting too, but and just to touch on that, because how many women perished in the Victorian era from their dresses being caught on fire? It's actually
Oh,
a
wow.
really common
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Right, they're
especially
not fire
around the fires, and the
resistant.
ember would land on the dress, and of course, in those days too, depending on what the dress was made from, a lot of the green was set with arsenic, and so it would be very flammable on the fabric, and it would just there's been some horrific deaths due to women burning up in their dresses.
How sad is that?
Bizarre. I mean, it's not something that but when you go to look at those records, that you will find deaths through that
Right.
exact thing.